Hello and welcome to a special London Live programme. I'll be looking back at some of the best and most important sporting moments we've covered here on London Live News throughout 2022. I'm Henry Thomas Aldridge. Coming up over the next hour. Football finally came home. We'll head back to the summer when the Lionesses wowed Wembley. The great and the good in the world of long-distance running. We'll hear from those raising money for charity and speak with Paula Radcliffe, looking to get Londoners more active. And we take a look at some of our best bits when our presenters were out on location, with James meeting an NFL legend on the Tottenham Hotspur pitch. All of that to stay tuned for over the next hour. But first, it's the biggest news from the world of UK sport in 2022. It is, of course, the Lionesses winning the Euros on home soil. England were crowned European champions, defeating Germany 2-1 after extra time at a packed-out Wembley. The atmosphere was bouncing when Chloe Kelly prodded the ball home from close range for the winner. Fans across the capital and beyond went bonkers. Here's the reaction in Trafalgar Square at full time. And less than 24 hours later, looking a little hungover, the Lionesses themselves travelled there from their southwest London base. We saw a glimpse of the trophy from Arsenal defender and England captain Leah Williamson. And midfielder and now Queen of the Jungle, Jill Scott, was keeping hold of her medal, so there was no chance of her losing it. Once in Trafalgar Square, they again lifted the trophy with fans and continued the celebrations. Well, when the celebrations finally came to an end, attention turned to the future of women's football in this country. Carol Thomas is the former England women's captain and led her side into the first European final for an English team, men or women, back in 1984. Sadly, they lost to Sweden that day, but Carol is enormously proud of this new group who managed to go one step further. I was lucky enough to chat to her to find out how the ladies can continue her legacy as trailblazers for the women's game.
The game's just going from strength, to be quite honest. You know, from when we got to the final in '84, how the game has improved and gone on and on is incredible, and it's great to see. And it'll be good for grassroots football and to show them as role models for the younger girls that are coming through to play football. That will be tremendous, and it can only go on and on in this country and worldwide, to be quite honest, because it's been such a great tournament.
It certainly has. You just touched upon it there. Back in 1984, you captained England to the final of the first ever Women's European Championships. Looking ahead now, how does it make you feel proud at all, considering where the Lionesses have gone in the last sort of 30, 40 years? Absolutely.
So I'm so proud for myself, not only being the captain of that '84 team. You know, we were the first ever senior men or women's team to get to a European final. And we are so proud that the Lionesses are where they are nowadays, you know, today. It's just great. And we just like to think we were that small stepping stone to help women's football where it's reached today, to be quite honest.
Carol Thomas, their former Lionesses captain. Well, Duke Walker from David Lloyd Kids spoke to us to find out how the win would impact girls getting into the sport at the grassroots level.
Isabella, yes? Oh, nice, well done. Awesome job, Olivia.
I think the impact of that win is going to be really inspirational to girls of all ages to get involved in football. I mean, over the last few years, we've seen a rise in girls interested in football go up anyway without this. But this is only going to kind of cement that interest and the passion that they have. I mean, even since Sunday, the feedback that we've had from clubs, and I've seen on clubs' Instagram pages, is that girls are now more kind of excited and they want to put the idea of football forward, whereas they may not have had that confidence before. The Lionesses winning on Sunday is only just going to inspire loads more girls and ignite their passion in the sport, and them coming to David Lloyd clubs to play that football is where it can go. Like them winning, the hype from it all through social media and just the general talking about it is just going to make that presence of female football much, much bigger, especially within our football sessions here at the clubs. The Lionesses in football is kind of the leader of the pack, should we say, leading those sports, and every other sport is going to follow on and catch up.
The Lionesses had a special visit from the then Prime Minister Liz Truss and Baroness Sue Campbell, who's the head of women's football at the FA, following on from manager Serena Vaigman wanting her players to kickstart a new generation for women's football. The squad spoke to the PM about their experiences growing up, sometimes having to play in boys' teams, and why it should be compulsory to have at least 2 hours of PE every week. Here's what Baroness Campbell had to say about the squad meeting Liz Truss.
You know, these are iconic moments, and I think this is a group of players who are really very committed to this legacy. This is not something they're doing as a nice thing. This is something they care passionately about, and they have every intention of following this through. Both of them explained that for many of the players you see on the field now, they had quite difficult journeys to get to where they are. And now we've taken this marvellous step forward. We've won the Euros, we've inspired a nation. We want to make sure that the younger generation don't have that challenge, that if they want to play our game for fun or for competition, that they get that opportunity.
Well, from one England team to another, the women were able to pick up silverware. But what about the men? They, of course, travelled to Qatar in the winter due to the Middle Eastern heat. After England won their group, James spoke to Football Daily's Doogie Critchley about the issues surrounding the World Cup and whether London was getting behind the Three Lions, just like they did in the 2018 World Cup and last year's Euros.
Let's talk about London. How do you make of it? I assume you've been watching in the pubs around the capital, and you're feeling the fever hotting up slightly, particularly after last night's win. But given all the problems in Qatar, given the lack of anticipation for this one, because it's so, drenched in controversy, how do you feel this compares? Do you feel it's going to really hot up, particularly if we beat Senegal and we go through and we likely play perhaps France in the quarter-final, and if we beat them, we might reach fever pitch. But can we compare it to the Euros and, the 2018 World Cup where London went absolutely bonkers? Do you think there's that same feeling?
Yeah, I think if we beat Senegal and it sets up a clash against France, we should probably really enjoy those 3 or 4 days, because I don't see England beating France, to be totally honest. In terms of what it's been like in the city, I think what we've seen is that this World Cup will almost always have like an asterisk to its name in terms of, nearly 7,000 migrant workers' deaths, the LGBTQ rights being, taken away for many people in Qatar, the various problems around how bad this World Cup is for the environment, etc. So I think what we're seeing is a lot of casual England fans who normally get involved with major tournaments are maybe not as invested, and it's really the diehard football fans that are still invested in this England journey, because they probably just got more, slightly bit more loyalty and feel a bit more tied to the England side than people that are half into the England journey. So I don't think it's going to grab the city as much as it has. Having said that, the game against Senegal on Sunday should, there'll be, I imagine, a lot of Christmas shoppers. It will be, full energy in those pubs, etc. And if we start beating Senegal, the calls of it's coming home will start coming out, and we can enjoy them for 3 or 4 days before we play against the world champions France, who have a magnificent squad, even with a load of injuries, and we can see where it goes from there.
I've noticed that it's coming home chants haven't really been out and about, and when people have started them, I was in a pub last night, it got started, and it was slightly muted actually. It didn't really catch on. It seems like it's going out of fashion, which might be a good thing for a lot of people, particularly people that don't support England.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that chant really annoys the rest of the world, to be honest. It's seen as us being incredibly arrogant, when actually it's a song about our consistent failures on the biggest stage, of course. But that kind of gets lost in translation. But yeah, it does feel like very much like Neil Diamond's song has fully overtaken that. But I hope we do see the nation catch World Cup fever whilst remembering the difficulties that this World Cup has brought as well. Those shouldn't just be forgotten with a good England run to the quarterfinals if we are to make it there.
Looking back on where we present, I can understand when I cannot forget. Something all the one, you still tell me on, but football's coming home again.
Football Daily's Doogie Critchley speaking to James there. And Doogie was, of course, right. World champions France ended England's hopes of going all the way in Qatar. Captain Harry Kane failing to score from the penalty spot with about 5 minutes to go in normal time. Just quickly before we go to a short break, the Three Lions were able to bring something home though. Dave the Cat became a bit of a mascot for the players in their days off, joining them in the team hotel. Here he is, starting his journey to get his jabs and fly back to England. Right, you're watching a special sporting look back for 2022 here on London Live News. We're going to a short break now, but coming up, we'll hear from Paula Radcliffe getting Londoners active ahead of the London Marathon. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to this special London Live programme looking at the best of sport in 2022. Now, after being signed off work with anxiety and depression during the pandemic, Londoner Daniel Sybil decided to change his career and rebuild his life. He's been raising money with a huge running challenge in a bid to help others who find themselves in the same place. Well, in amongst the numerous running challenges, Daniel came into the studio to tell Alicia about his story and his fundraising efforts.
So I'm running 84 kilometres a week for the whole week of 2022, and that number represents the number of men that die by suicide every week and then for every year in the UK. So because I want to raise some awareness and some money for charity helping provide some therapy, I'm running a kilometre for every man that we lose this year. I'm 3,430 kilometres in, which means I've still got 940 something left to go. But we're getting there, one day at a time, one foot in front of the other.
Let's go back to 2020
Sure.
when, you know, you started to have your own struggles with your mental health.
Absolutely. COVID was a really tricky time for so many of us. We were at home, working from home, stripped of all the freedoms and things that we'd come to enjoy in life. And I was doing a job that really didn't sit well with me. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't get anything from it. And after 6 or 7 months of being at home with my 3 screens working, I broke and I had a panic attack at my desk in October 2020. And that led to me being signed off work for 6 months, dealing with depression, low mood, stress, anxiety, panic, coming on to antidepressants, and needing to find reasons to ultimately stay alive at that point, because I just struggled to see any real joy in the world. And I was fortunate that I had the means to pay for therapy, and I got the help that I needed when I needed it, which so many people aren't in the same position. And that allowed me to come through the other side a little bit quicker, a little bit safer, with the support that I needed. And in April 2021, I actually fully quit my job with no idea where I was going to go from there. But I knew that I needed to move towards a life that was more authentic to me, that had meaning, that had connection, that had purpose, and that I felt good about myself from the work I was doing. So that led me down a bit of a garden path, really, trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do with my life. And I settled on how could I impact the most amount of people on any given day. So I turned my hand to CrossFit coaching, which is what I do now, and I could not love it more. It gives me so much meaning to kind of come in first thing in the morning and make people smile, impact their days, and all those amazing things that you get to do and help them. But it's also given me a platform to talk about my mental health, to talk to others about their mental health, talk about the importance of like connection, movement, and how we can all be there to support each other going forwards, hopefully.
Absolutely. You are raising money for Big Moose charity.
That's correct, yeah.
Tell me a bit about what they do and why you want to
Absolutely.
raise money for them particularly.
What happens with Big Moose is they work with some therapists all around the country, and you'll be assigned a therapist within as little as 2 or 3 days. So from the point of you recognizing that you need some help, whether that be when it's really, really serious or just knowing that you're actually starting to struggle, Jeff and Chloe are there at hand, as well as the whole of the Big Moose team, to kind of help you find that help and talk about it, express your emotions, understand your feelings and all that. And they are doing amazing work. So I think it's something, several hundred people have been referred to them this year, dozens of which have said that the therapy that they were provided directly saved their lives. And there's no barriers. It's just anybody who needs it. They just want to see depression and mental health struggles be a thing of the past, and actually people be open to talking about their struggles and all these worries. And they're just two of the most wonderful human beings that you could ever meet. So knowing who they are, what they stand for, and being part of this journey with them has been the most fulfilling part of this entire challenge.
A very worthy cause Daniel is raising money for there. If you'd like to find out more or donate, go to his Just Giving page. Now, from the world of amateur running to someone who did it professionally and broke world records along the way, the former marathon champion Paula Radcliffe has always been at the forefront of encouraging youngsters to get into fitness. Way back in February, Paula visited Blackheath and Bromley Harriers in southeast London along with EE, after research revealed many parents are worried that the pandemic has led to a drop-off in the amount of exercise being done by their children. We went down to chat to Paula about the initiative.
I'm definitely one of the 59% of parents who are concerned that the kids have become less physically active through the lockdown and want to do something about it, be that as family walks, as family bike rides. And as a parent, I think encouraging a child to be independently more physically active is really important. So if we can do that, then that is very reassuring. I think the biggest thing for children, and it's a crucial thing, is that all sport outside of the family stopped during lockdown. So school sport, clubs activities, a lot of things took a long time to come back, even though it was proven that physical activity actually helps us keep us healthier and fight off COVID better. But it still hit the kids in that way. And if you think about it as an adult, when you're rushing around working, and then you actually got time in lockdown for that physical activity, for the kids it was almost the opposite effect, because that group activity, the fun side of it, was taken away. So unless you were in a family who made an effort, where it was instilled in the family to get out there and do the activity, then they weren't able to do that. For young kids, kind of my kids' age and primary school kids, that sudden stop in activity I think is massive, and it's the social side of it as well as the physical. So it's the physical health side, we know that it affects them in terms of how well they can concentrate in school, how well they can work, how well they go on to do in life afterwards, to work as part of a team, all of those things that sport brings to you. And that's been gone. So I think working that back in a way that's fun and that feels natural to the kids is the most important thing. That's what we want. We want this generation to be as healthy or healthier than the one before, not less healthy. So that's what the event here is doing. So we're going to give them all the Explorer X5 Play Watch. They amass their steps through the day, and they amass loads of them. Kids never stop moving. They get badges for the different amounts of activity. So it's just tapping into that kids' competitive spirit, helping kids just get into any sort of physical activity. Obviously I'm biased towards running because running's given me so much.
What would you say to someone who's been watching the games, or if they want to get involved in a new sport or even take something a bit more seriously? What would you encourage them to do?
Just get out and try it. Just watch those, soak it up, whatever lights that passion for you. Pester your parents, just do some research around you. There must be a club or some kind of setup near you where you can go and tap into that, and if you don't, then just go and try it on your own. But I think if you see something and it makes you sit up and think, right, I would love to try that, then that's a great sign that you're going to be motivated to stick with that through the ups and downs that are in any kind of sport that you get into. So yeah, watch that, take the inspiration, and then just get out there and try it, and try as many different sports as you can till you find the one that works for you.
Now, from an established long-distance runner to someone who was coached by her, now presenter and former TOWIE star, Mark Wright took on his first ever marathon this year. Mark teamed up with Flora, leading their Get Towns Active campaign, which aims to inspire and motivate people across the country to take natural steps towards a more active lifestyle. He spoke with James about his goals for London's most iconic and inclusive race, as well as a few tips from Paula.
When I get feedback that I've, changed their life for the better, both mentally and physically, and they're getting fit and they're the best version of themselves, it's just the most rewarding feeling ever. So to encourage more people to get fit and healthy and get active like we're doing here is just the perfect kind of thing for me,
Yeah, you've got a hell of a coach I've just seen here. The great Paula Ratcliffe's been putting you through her paces. That's quite something. Not many people get Paula Ratcliffe to coach them on the marathon.
Yeah, Paula's. I didn't really listen to her last year enough, and that's why I made an injury. I think because pulled my calf because I trained too fast. So I didn't listen to her, but now I'm really listening to her advice, and it's, I'm in great stead. She's really kind of helping me get to where I need to get to.
Yeah, vicariously through her then, a lot of people might be watching this who are doing the marathon. What are the best tips she's given you in terms of that training in the build-up?
So she told me to do like 3 runs a week. Mm-hmm. One a fast pace, like a short run, like 5-6K. One medium sort of mileage, well, medium to low, like 8 to 10 miles, and do that at a reasonably slow pace, steady pace, and then do a really long run, like your longest one, at any pace you like. Just getting yourself out on your legs and being out there for that long at one time is very important because our bodies aren't used to it. And then eventually the time that you're doing the long one in will just naturally start to get quicker as time goes on and the more your body gets used to it.
James speaking with Mark Wright there. You're watching a special sporting look back at 2022 here on London Live with Henry Thomas Aldridge. We're going to a short break now, but coming up, I got the chance to take a penalty against a Premier League goalkeeper, but can I score a pen against Ben? Stay tuned to find out. Welcome back to this London Live special looking at the best bits from the 2022 sporting calendar. Now, it's been a jam-packed year of sport, as we've already seen so far in the show, with many people's highlight, the Lionesses win at Wembley on National Stadium, also played host to the first NFL game way back in 2007. Now, 15 years on, Tottenham Hotspur's new stadium was specially built to incorporate an American football pitch, making sure the sport will continue to be played here for years to come. Well, ahead of the Green Bay Packers versus New York Giants game back in October, James was lucky enough to go down their pitch side and meet a former NFL defensive end and Brit, Jack Crawford.
I'm here at Tottenham Hotspur's stadium as this Sunday the Green Bay Packers will take on the New York Giants in the NFL London Games. Well, I caught up with Jack Crawford, former star of the NFL, about what he thinks about the spectacle, bringing a team to London potentially in the NFL, and he tried to sell me American football as a die-hard soccer fan. Jack, thank you for chatting with me today. Yeah. Thank you very much for coming on the show. Let's start with this stadium, first of all. Yeah. It's quite a coliseum. You've played in a hell of a lot of places around the US. How does this compare for Sunday?
Well, first of all, I am a little bit salty that I never got the opportunity to play in the stadium after coming to last week's game and last year's game here. It's the atmosphere here feels a little bit different than when I played back in the UK in Wembley. It's weird because it's like a state-of-the-art NFL stadium that I would go to in America, but it's here in London. And there's just something about the fans here that, like, they're so enthusiastic that they bring the same level of, like, intensity and, you know, enthusiasm to every play. Every catch, every field goal that's kicked. I mean, it really don't matter which team is doing it. They just love the game. And I could see some of the players on the field get hyped for that. They responded to the fans, and just the passion that the fans were showing And you know, it just kind of brought me back a little bit, man. It made me feel like I wish I got to experience that.
Yeah. Well, talk to us a little bit about NFL in London. You talk about the fans and what they've brought to the whole spectacle here. There was some talk that perhaps there could be an NFL team in London, maybe move the Jacksonville Jaguars over here. That might not happen. And the Mayor Sadiq Khan said, oh, wouldn't it be great to have a team over here? What do you think of that? Do you think that would be a good thing? Do you think that would take off? And would the American fans, you know, get behind it?
I would love to see it. Like, I would love to see someone try and do it, but honestly, it's not. I don't think it's as realistic. I don't think it's that feasible. How would you do the schedule? Because you would be exhausted traveling back and forward to the States. If you had to play a game against the LA Rams and you're a London team, you would be traveling 12 hours just to go and play somebody, and then you're 12 hours back to come practice. It just goes against the nature of the work week in the NFL. And we put everything into the practice, everything into recovery, that you would just be at a disadvantage playing for this team. So I think that you have to kind of look at it differently. I think that the game is growing. All right, well, how do we expand? All right, now we basically have to increase the level of competition of American football in Europe, in Africa, in other parts of the world. I don't think we should be looking at bringing a team from the NFL and putting it here. The NFL is the NFL. That's the cream of the crop. But there's nothing underneath the NFL. They're trying to do it in America, but it's tough because everybody wants to make it to the NFL and nobody's willing to invest in the level under the NFL. But I think there's a lot of talent here in Europe. I think there's a lot of talent all over the world. And I think if you bring this sport and you bring it to Europe, you bring it to the rest of the world, I think it's going to continue to grow because I truly think it's the best team game that exists. And I just think people don't know the rules yet. That's it. And I think that, you know, and I never grew up an American football fan. I didn't even like American football when I played it. But when I started to learn more about it, I started to understand the strategy of it. And once you understand the strategy, you start to become invested, and you start to see why coaches do this, why players make these decisions. And you start to say, all right, this isn't a slow game. People in Europe think it's just start, stop, start, stop. I don't understand it, it's boring.
Wow, lucky James getting pitch side at Tottenham Stadium. But do you think you could actually go one better and score a penalty against a Premier League goalkeeper? Well, Watford's former #1, Ben Foster, gave the public a chance to slot a spot kick past the England keeper to mark his podcast going exclusive to Spotify. It's called The Fozcast and invites YouTubers and fellow sporting professionals alike to relax, tell stories and reflect on their careers. So I went down to speak to him and see if I could score a pen against Ben.
It's just like a bit of a launch event, really. It's just nice to come down and see everybody, like I say, get a chance to face some penalties from some people as well. So there's quite a few kids about as well. There's a load of kids on like school tours and stuff like that, so they're all buzzing as well. They've got to see it, which is quite nice.
I heard one kid over there thought you were Cristiano Ronaldo. How's that make you feel?
Mate. I will take that all day long, all day long. I'm going to live with that one forever, buzzing.
So let's talk about the podcast. Why did you start doing it in the first place? Because when you started, not many footballers had done one.
It was just, you know what, obviously off the back of the Cycling GK, the YouTube channel, we had met so many people in that space anyways that we thought, do you know what, just something different, do you know what I mean? Footballer doing a podcast with other sports people. They might be YouTubers, they might be actual footballers. Yeah, we started it up and it just went from strength to strength. We found that we've actually really enjoyed doing it. At the end of the day, you're just talking for like an hour and a half. That's all you do. Like, imagine that, just talking for an hour and a half. And that's what it is. You get to find out some interesting facts and figures about these people, and long may it continue.
Yeah, well now, let's talk about penalties. You have the record for the most saves.
Joint record.
Sorry,
yeah.
Getting ahead of
That's
myself.
That's fine, it's still my record. I'm still at the top somewhere.
Well, you have the most saves, joint most saves.
Yeah.
Now, what is the secret? Is it 50% research, 50% in the moment, or more one than the other?
It's a bit of everything, because you don't get me wrong, you have to do your research. If you don't do your research, then you're starting on a bad foot to start with. But I think there's a lot to be said for just going with your gut feeling at that moment in time. Do you know what I mean? You might try and pick up some little tally, you might look in a corner, he might twist the ball. It could be anything. You've got to sometimes go with your gut, all right? The thing is, though, I know when we play, say we played Man City last week, for example, Jesus got the penalty. And the second the penalty was given, One of our players came up to me and went, he puts it to the left. Another player came up to me and said, he puts it to the right. And I'm like, my God, what am I supposed to do with this? So I think a lot of the time, you've got to just go with your gut feeling.
Right, just before we get on to some quickfire questions, what will you be looking out for when I take a penalty?
I will be looking out for your body shape, and I'll look at how stiff you look, and you look like you're quite stiff, all right? So if you're stiff, it means that you probably just put it in like the far corner kind of thing. If you're nice and loose, you might be able to open your hips up and wrap your foot around it. So I'll just see how you move and how you walk over there, all right?
Well, let's see. Right, well, we'll go for some quickfire questions. You up for that?
Yeah, let's go.
Right, okay. So, what would you have done if you weren't a footballer?
I wanted to be a policeman. I did when I was a kid. Like the idea of chasing after bad people just really intrigued me.
Save a penalty or score a goal?
Oh, I'd love to score a goal. I would love to, mate. I think I'm retiring. The second I score a goal, I'm retiring.
Promotion to Premier League or stay up on the final day?
Well, I'd stay up on the final day because I've been promoted to the Premier League through the playoffs, which was incredible. And I've also been relegated on the final day, and the relegation on the final day sucked.
Hurts.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay. Most intimidating stadium you've played in?
Wolves away. They hate me. As an individual, they hate me. So they give me dog's abuse all game long.
Dream guest on the podcast?
Dream guest. Tyson Fury has to be up there. I would love to get Tyson Fury. And I love his outlook on life. I do. I love it. He's not about the glitz and the glamour. It's not his game. He's about what you are as a person and what you stand for. And I love that about him.
Yeah. The Gypsy King.
Yeah.
Right. Best player you've played with?
Paul Scholes.
Best you played against?
Didier Drogba.
Worst career moment?
Paul Robertson scoring past me from about 90 yards. It's never nice when another goalie scores past you.
And a fellow England candidate as well.
Yeah, we were literally joining up with the England squad that weekend, like that week, so not a great time for him to score either.
And finally, to end on a good note, best career moment?
Oh, best career moment is winning the League Cup with Birmingham City against Arsenal at Wembley.
Fantastic. Right, now let's go take a pen.
Come on then, let's see what you got.
There we are. I managed to score a pen against Ben. Very much a personal highlight for me there. Probably looking a bit too happy though. Right, we're heading for one final break of this special programme looking at the best bits of sport from 2022. Stay with us because coming up, we'll hear from Arsenal legend Paul Merson about his story of coping with addiction as he looks to help others. Welcome back to the final part of our 2022 sporting special here on London Live. Now for a special interview with much-loved football TV pundit and Arsenal legend Paul Merson. Over a third of people in the UK are affected by addiction, with a stigma still existing around those who suffer. In his playing days, Paul was severely affected by alcohol, substance abuse and gambling addiction. The problem still surfaces its ugly head in his life today after he lost a house he was planning to buy for his family during lockdown. He's fronting the launch of a new platform called Recovolution, a new online hub which supports people in recovery to stay there longer, as addiction is something that never leaves you. Paul, join James.
I've tried to take my life on numerous occasions where I've been so depressed. I mean, with gambling, I don't know anything like it in drop from high to low. I mean, you could be as high as a kite winning, everything's great, and you could lose everything in 10 seconds and you're down so low. I mean, it's so unexplainable. When you're drinking and taking drugs, it's sort of, there's such a high and then you come down slowly. With gambling, there's no in between. You're either up here and you're winning, you can't stop, and then bang, everything's gone. And for a compulsive gamblers who are still struggling out there, they will understand that. You know, a normal gambler who can gamble normally, they wouldn't understand that. But with compulsive gamblers, this is that feeling of being so high and so low so quickly. And that's why more people commit suicide through gambling than any other addiction in the world, because it happens so quickly.
Yeah. And what's interesting is there's still a stigma towards people who struggle with addiction. People still think that this is something that they can choose to do. They go, oh, well, you know, show some self-restraint, just have a drink and then stop there. Why can't you do that? There's still a small proportion, it's getting a lot better, admittedly, of people that still think that. And does that shock you when you get confronted with views like that?
Yeah, it does shock me. It does shock me. You know, next time you get diarrhea, try and stop that with willpower. I don't think it'll work, but have a try. For me, yeah, there's still a stigma out there. You know, I done an interview just now with someone who's very respected, who I really like, really dearly, and you know, he just said it's a mugs game. I mean, that sums it up. You know, it's like saying, "Oh, you're a mug." You know, I'm not. I'm an ill person. I have an addiction. You know, I didn't choose to do it. I have a choice today. I didn't have a choice in them days. I didn't know. I just thought I was a weak person who's trying to get strong and trying to become a good person. I didn't have the choice I have today. I know today I'm an ill person. As soon as I start gambling, everything's going. Everything. I will not stop until I've lost. If I'm winning and I lose, I will still chase that loss back. You know, a compulsive gambler will keep on chasing their losses. A normal gambler will lose what they can afford to lose. You know, I know today I have a choice, and that's a nice choice to have. Nice choice. I'm not a mug. With Recovolution, yeah, it's 24/7. So if I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I don't feel right, I can connect with someone in New York or in Los Angeles or in another part of the world where it might be daytime there. It's hard to connect with someone at 2 o'clock in the morning if you just woke up. And, you know, it's hard to get hold of someone. So this is 24/7. And it's to talk and be around recovering people. You know, I don't, you know, if I told someone, you know, I don't want to say to someone or my wife and say after 3.5 years, I feel like a drink today. I feel like a drink. You know, she'll go, what are you talking about? You know, you're 3.5 years. What do you want to drink for? You know, that's not the thing. You know, I need to talk to a recovering addict who's been in the position and go, wait there, Paul, that's not the solution. That's just going to make you worse. That's not going to make you better. That's not, why do you want to have a drink? Yeah. You know, and that's why I need to be around. And I think with Recovolution, it's such a strong platform to get and talk to people that, because in recovery, before you get into recovery, you think you're the only person. You honestly think you're the only person, and you're not the only person. There's over 100 million people around the world recovering from addiction.
Lots more on Recovolution's website, and for help generally, there's plenty on the NHS website too. Now let's look at another former pro helping a good cause. Rugby World Cup winner Lawrence Dallaglio walked 18 miles along the River Thames in support of the Royal National Lifeboat Institution. The former Wasps player trekked from Woods Quay in Westminster to Teddington to mark 20 years since the RNLI started having a life-saving presence on the Thames. The stations at Tower, Chiswick, Teddington and Gravesend were opened in 2002 as a result of an inquiry into the Marchioness disaster in 1989. It claimed the lives of 51 people, including Lawrence's sister, Francesca. Well, Helena spoke to him just after he finished the walk.
I'm feeling surprisingly well, actually. We've been walking since about 7:30 this morning from Waterloo. And obviously I found out about this walk a couple of weeks ago. And once I understood you know, what it was all about, the RNLI, the cause, obviously my own personal engagement and involvement, I was, you know, I was all in really. So very excited to be part of the challenge and to really raise awareness for some amazing people that do an amazing job, that save lives. You know, the RNLI, I'm sure people are aware of the incredible job that they do. They're all volunteers. They all have their own careers that they get on with, and then in their spare time they give up their time to save other people's lives. And it's a very special job.
Absolutely. Well, this year, you know, marks 20 years of the RNLI being on the Thames. I wonder if you could tell us a little bit more. You mentioned there your own personal story. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I lost my sister very tragically in the Marchioness riverboat disaster in 1989 when the Marchioness was hit by the Bow Bell, a dredger. And tragically, you know, 51 people died that evening. And I think, you know, unfortunately, it took a long time to understand the truth of what happened that night, but there was no public inquiry, a bit like Hillsborough really, for the first 6 years. But my mother, Eileen, along with a number of other people, understandably, you know, were driven by grief and wanting to find out justice. And one of the things they did was to make sure that no other families had to ever wake up with that feeling of losing a loved one because they drowned on the river. So the RNLI didn't exist on the River Thames when the Marchioness went down. I think the rescue boats that were there were sent in the wrong direction. So my mother and a number of others, Eileen, campaigned really, really hard. And now there are 4 RNLI life stations across the Thames. It's a beautiful stretch of water, but it's also very dangerous. And these are volunteers that are called out literally hundreds of times each year, and they save lives. And I think, if anything good can come out of a tragedy like the Marchioness, then I think the legacy of having the RNLI on the Thames saving lives is a really good one. And, the reason for the walk is to really raise money for the charity. They're not they don't get funding, so it has to be done through events, through fundraising. And today was a raising awareness and raising, much needed funds. And as I said, my mother would have been very proud of us today. She'd have joined us. Her and I launched an RNLI lifeboat called Legacy a number of years ago in memory of those that lost their lives on that night. And I feel a bit emotional actually being back by the river today.
Lawrence Delalio there. Now, for our very last segment of this special sporting look back at 2022, we're going right back to January as a South London cricket club was campaigning to refurbish their local cricket nets. Brockwell Park Cricket Club have started a petition asking Lambeth Council to repair the facilities after becoming a community hub during the pandemic. Well, I spoke to Alex Bigham from the club to find out why he started the petition.
I think during lockdown, it's become a bit of a kind of community hub, and we've really felt that it's in quite a sort of poor state of repair. We've got a good group of kind of 70 people who use it regularly, even in cold days like this in the winter. We are not in a great shape at the moment. There's a lot of holes and not the kind of greatest quality, so it's not particularly safe for cricketers to use at the moment. And nor is it for kind of other park users. And we just want to make sure, first of all, that it's safe and that it's, a kind of a great place that we can get more kind of young people into cricket, more people from different backgrounds, and to really kind of improve the kind of quality of local club matches and get people out and about and staying well. To develop the next stars of the future, we have to invest in grassroots cricket, and we have to make sure it's really open to all, because I think there is a bit of a danger that the background of some cricketers in this country is, have mainly come through the private school system, understandably, because the costs involved. So it's really important that we invest in grassroots facilities and make them as open and accessible as possible. We set up Brockwell Park Cricket Club during year before last, during lockdown. It's been, you've got people who are, some people who used to work in Sainsbury's who are now going on to do their own kind of cricket coaching. We've got kind of nurses who come from King's who are sort of taking a break from the pressures of that job. So it's a great group, and it's a real opportunity for people to have a bit of a break, but also to feel a bit more connected with some of their neighbours.
A worthy cause at the grassroots level in South London there. Well, I'm afraid that's all for today's special programme looking at the best bits of sport from 2022. Remember, you can check us out on social media with the handle @LondonLive. But from me and all of the team here, it's been a great year. We look forward to seeing you again in 2023. Thanks for watching.